Dobar dan, sad i zvanično. Dobrodošli na ovaj webinar koji organizuje Nacionalna akademija za javnu upravu u saradnji sa UNDP projektom Digital Innovations, a na inicijativu i uz veliku podršku, naravno, Kabineta predsednice Vlade. Meni je jako drago što ovaj webinar je webinar koji mi započinjemo ovu godinu sa realizacijom obuka na različite teme, koji se inače u redovnoj ponudi Nacionalne akademije za javnu upravu. I upravo mi je drago da tema veštačke inteligencije, u konkretnom slučaju generativne veštačke inteligencije, je prvi webinar koji organizuje Nacionalna akademija u ovoj godini. Htela bih da naglasim takođe da osim ovog webinara koji realizujemo sada u trajanju od 2 sata, naravno u ponudi Nacionalne akademije za javnu upravu tokom ove godine imaćete mogućnost da već od 20. februara pratite i ostale seminare i webinare Nacionalne akademije za javnu upravu, kako u oblasti novih tehnologija, inovacija, digitalnih veština, veštačke inteligencije naravno i uopšte elektronske uprave, te vas ja pozivam da se prijavite kada započnemo sa pozivima za učešćem na našim različitim obukama koje organizujemo. Profesor Jonathan Reichental je profesor koji će danas sa vama raditi i govoriti vam više o tome, o veštačkoj inteligenciji, posebno o generativnoj veštačkoj inteligenciji, šta je to, dati vam uvod u ChatGPT, koji su neki brizici, koji su mogućnosti korišćenja ChatGPT-a i imat ćete mogućnost naravno i da na kraju ovog webinara postavite kratko pitanja na koje ćete dobiti odgovor sigurno. Jako mi je drago da je veliko interesovanje za ovaj webinar i ja vas i pozivam da kolegama koji prate, koji nisu u mogućnosti da prate sada uživo ovaj webinar, da ih uputite na YouTube kanal Nacionalne akademije, gde će biti uskoro, verovatno tokom ove nedelje, i dostupan snimak samog webinara, tako da će on biti dostupan ne samo zaposlenima u javnoj upravi, već prosto i širom građanstvu u Srbiji, što mi je posebno zadovoljstvo. Još par tehničkih informacija, to je da profesor Reichental će govoriti na engleskom. Ukoliko želite da slušate prevod na srpski, imate mogućnost da odaberete tu opciju u ovom delu dole na Zoomu Translations. Verujem da smo svi sa tim dobro upoznati i takođe obezbedili smo i tumača za znakovni jezik, tako da možete da samo odaberete opciju American Sign In. Ja vas pozdravljam i jako mi je veliko zadovoljstvo što u ovako velikom broju pratimo ovaj webinar i dajem reč profesoru Reichentalu da se predstavi i da započne webinar. Hvala još jednom.
Well, thank you very much for that lovely introduction. It's such a great pleasure and frankly an honor to be doing this training today. I'm also thrilled with the reception. I know we have a lot of people signed up and a lot of people are in the session right now. So it's a real thrill. Thank you for inviting me. I hope I can help you a little bit and advance your understanding and the advantages of generative AI in your work and in your life. By the way, greetings. I'm coming from Singapore. It is the evening here, in fact. I'm usually based in Silicon Valley, California, but I'm currently teaching at the National University of Singapore. So I'm here for a few weeks. So that's where I'm coming from. And I'm going to go ahead and get my presentation up on the screen, because we have so much really good stuff to share with you today. I don't want to spend any more time on the opening comments. So you're here, you're live watching this introduction to generative AI, or you're watching on the recording. Either way, very welcome. And I want to let you know that the information I share today is simply for informational and educational purposes. So please don't construe any of my thoughts here as direct advice or anything related to financials. You see the disclaimer there. Just a quick few comments about myself. I'm a technology person, through and through. I have a small technology firm that I run out of Silicon Valley, just south of San Francisco in California. But I also am a professor at the University of San Francisco and Menlo College. I'm an author. So I've written several books now on popular topics, and so I'm happy to be part of this. Some of the most in-demand work I'm seeing right now is in artificial intelligence, and that's probably not a surprise to any of you. This appears to be one of the hottest topics in the world right now, and will be for some time. So we got an ambitious agenda. I'm going to give you a little bit of background. Some of you are, I imagine, quite curious about the origin of AI. We'll jump into generative AI, which is a specific subset of the broader artificial intelligence umbrella. And then we're going to focus on ChatGPT, one of the versions of generative AI. And I'm going to show you real tips and techniques. So one thing I might encourage you to do is follow along with me today. So if you have a separate computer, or you want to use a smartphone or a tablet, or just use the same computer as you're watching this on, you'll be able to follow along with me and actually try the things that we're doing together. And then while ChatGPT is very popular, I do want to show you a couple of advantages of some alternatives, including Google Bard and Microsoft's Designer, in fact. And then we'll sort of conclude with some understanding of the risks and the opportunities, and time permitting, hopefully get a few of your really difficult and insightful questions. So that's the idea today. So we start off with the most basic of questions, and that is, what is artificial intelligence? It's quite the word, right? But I will try to focus you in on one thing, which is, this is artificial, right? Artificial is the key word here. This is not human intelligence or anything close to it. We're trying to actually mimic it. And we're in fact creating sort of a magic trick that just gives us the impression, the illusion of intelligence. What we are focused on when we talk about artificial intelligence, or AI today, is actually quite a narrow type of AI, in fact called artificial narrow intelligence, although we seldom say ANI, we're referring to AI. And it is just AI that is very good at some very specific tasks. We don't have this idea yet of artificial general intelligence, which can do lots of things, and it doesn't have to just create text or images, but it can run robots and work in factories and do all sorts of things. We're not there yet, actually. We're not there by a long way. When we use AI today, we're actually focused on very specific functions, which I'll talk about here in a moment. And I want to be really clear. AI is not human intelligence. It's not even close to human intelligence. It's really a simulation. It's a magic trick, is what I like to think of it as. There's people behind the curtain making it all work. But if for us to create actually computer technology that mimics human intelligence, we would have to understand how human intelligence works. And the truth is quite sobering. In 2024, we don't really know how our brain works. So we're a long way from any type of sentient computer software or a thinking machine. So rest assured, what we're actually looking at today is some really good mathematics. For a moment, take a look at this picture. And we're pretty cool as humans. We're very smart. Now, if you look at this picture, I bet you could probably very quickly figure out what's going to happen when the ball at the top rolls down. It hits the dominoes, hit another ball. You can see where it goes, and all these sort of knock-on effects happens. And you, as a human, looking at my screen right now, you could figure this out almost instantly, right? A computer would really struggle with this, and will struggle with this for a decent amount of time. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to happen, because I anticipate that we will actually see computers being able to interpret this and sort of say what might happen, might not happen, and what the results will be. But our brains are very smart and very quick. The software has a long way to go. Ultimately, artificial intelligence is codified mathematics. Okay, so that's what you're going to see today, is just a very elaborate series of mathematical steps, which gives us the impression of intelligence. But of course, it is artificial intelligence. Now we're feeding in, on one side, some sort of input, right? Maybe a photograph or a word or some sound. It then is processed in a computer software program, and then it's kicking some output. We shouldn't try to overthink this or exaggerate, but I have to say the results are incredible. And I think if any of you have begun to use this, you would agree that it is absolutely incredible what we're seeing. One of the ways that we measure the effectiveness of AI today is through something called the Turing test. It comes from Alan Turing, who was a British computer scientist back in the World War II, and certainly helped the Allies to win the war. And he was very important in the evolution of what we know as computer science today. The Turing test effectively is on one side of a wall. There's a person who is able to communicate with either a computer or a person on the other side of a wall. And the person who is asking questions, the person on the left here, will ask a few questions to try to determine if the responses are coming from a person or a computer. Now, if the person can tell, well, then the Turing test has not been passed. But if the person can't tell, and they don't know whether it's a computer or a person, they think actually perhaps it's a person, then we say the Turing test is passed. Now, why is this important? Well, for the last 70 years of artificial intelligence research and work, we really have not passed the Turing test. Computers weren't that good and weren't that convincing. But now in 2024, we are potentially close to a time when there will be moments when you can't tell the difference, whether it's a human or a computer. We think we're starting to hit the Turing test and pass it quite periodically. Now, this topic of computer machinery mimicking human behavior, we call it artificial intelligence, but there are subsets, right? There are subset technologies. It's quite a few, but there's two that come up very often. You'll hear the notion of machine learning, and you'll hear the notion of deep learning. Now, what I want to make sure we're really clear on today is that machine learning and deep learning are a subset. They are beneath the umbrella of AI. They're not equivalent. And in fact, deep learning is a subset of machine learning, as the graphic illustrates here. So often people make the mistake of thinking these are different things and they are equivalent as well. But in fact, the big topic, the umbrella topic, is AI. And underneath it, we see different ways of implementing the software and having different types of results. The most contemporary, the most interesting of the technologies today is within the artificial intelligence realm is deep learning, a specific type of, again, computer software. And it's giving us the generative AI results that we're so impressed by. Machine learning has been around for some time, and deep learning is getting better and better. And this was the breakthrough that we made just in the last few years, how we ended up with something like generative AI. It was really the advances in deep learning. Today, we're using AI all the time, right? You might think just because you're using ChatGPT or Google Bar that you're using AI for the first time. The reality is, if you've ever done a search in Google or Yahoo, or you've ever used a smart assistant that recognizes your voice, you're using AI. We use it in a lot of our lives today, in our home life, our personal life and work. As we go about our business, we're using it. And the businesses we interact with, if you've ever used a credit card or used online banking, there's a generous amount of AI actually happening already. So it's been part of your life for a lot longer than most of us realize. But it's getting better, and we're seeing advances, for example, in detecting objects, right? So this new generation of AI not only can be, identifying words and word inputs, but also visuals and what's in the visuals and what the visuals are doing. So things like computers now scanning and reviewing brain scans are often more accurate than humans, and they're faster, of course. So we already see some really excellent outcomes from feeding, X-rays into AI and getting some really good results. So the visual side is improving a lot. Now, AI isn't new. It didn't start in October or November of 2022. In fact, we've been working on it for about 70 years, 70 years. And it's gone through many versions. Every decade, we see some incredible advances, everything from robotics, right, to computers finally beating humans at chess. This was a really big deal. Or vacuum robots that clean up in our homes and figure out where to go. Then we had things like Alexa and Siri and our smart assistants. And now in the 2020s, we start to see AI doing some pretty advanced things, driving cars, running smart factories, and also this natural language recognition and generation, which we'll see in just a few moments. So it's taken a while for us to get to where we're at. But of course, like everything else, we learned a lot along the way, and every discovery and every bit of progress built on the previous work, and finally we get to today. So the big picture is we are focused on a narrow form of artificial intelligence, the code that does very specific things well. There are plenty of people very interested in more generalization, where AI begins to mimic a lot of the things humans can do. We call that artificial general intelligence, and we consider a future where perhaps, because it doesn't exist, the computers will be smarter than humans. We call that artificial superintelligence. So you see there's a bit of a roadmap here, but I want to be clear, we're only focused on today. Both general intelligence and superintelligence are conceptual and don't exist today. So nothing to get concerned about in the short term, but the long term, I think we're going to make some incredible breakthroughs. But why now? Why have we made the leaps that occurred, for most of us in sort of October, November of 2022, barely a year and a half ago, and now we're, bringing new capability to government, to factories, to education, right across the economy. This AI is having a disruptive impact. And the question is, why now? What has changed? What is different, right? Well, we live in an era of vast amounts of data, right? Our digital environment is creating enormous amounts of data. We call it big data. And if you follow the path of sort of like, gigabytes and terabytes and petabytes and exabytes, well, we're way beyond that now. We're in what's called a zettabyte era. We're in the zettabyte era of data. And that's really a 1 with 21 zeros, right? So this is the era of big data. More data, the better the AI is, because we're gonna help AI figure out what to do based on these large repositories of data. We have much better processing power today. The computing chips are so much better. We have global networks, and the software and algorithms, the actual software is getting much better. We've seen some really smart work done to, take input of data, understand it, and when I say understand it, kind of make sense of it, largely from a mathematical perspective, and then kick out some probabilities on the other side in terms of output. And it's been quite surprising for everyone how good that is. And then finally, as you introduce new capabilities, right, the market starts to see the value, and then you see market demand, and then the innovation starts to rise. And this is why Silicon Valley is moving fast. In so many parts of the world where we have innovation ecosystems, we're starting to see AI move very, very quickly. Okay. So that's a little bit of a background, kind of sets the table for us. We know what we're talking about now. Let's go a little bit deeper. And today we decided we were going to focus on one type of artificial intelligence, a very specific type called artificial or a generative AI. And this does, like the sort of, if you like, within the definition of ANI, narrow intelligence, it does a few things really, really well. And what it does is it's able to generate text and images and other types of media simply based on some plain language prompting from a human being. And so we can do, you'll see very soon, everything from questions to all sorts of creation of things. And this generative AI does some very, very notable outcomes that almost seem surprisingly good. So for example, a text prompt or input would be list and describe 5 trends in retail. a little bit like what you used to with a search, right? List and describe 5 trends in retail. Google would probably go out and find something similar. But with this, it's going to actually create the list in real time for you. The prompt, actually, the input that you provide as a human could also be requesting a picture. So we'll see that today, where you can do that after I'm finished, or you can do it with me when I'm doing it, and you can see the results and think about perhaps how they might be useful in your work. This effort of creating a meaningful input, and I will show you many examples, and then making sure that the input that you provide, the sentence, the request, is written in a way that is optimized. Then you get a good output, hopefully, because sometimes it doesn't give you good output, but a lot of times it does. We call this space prompt engineering. It's called prompt engineering. Now, just like you may be hearing it for the first time, this is a new term. We didn't have this term a year and a half ago. At least the broad population never thought of what prompt engineering is. But that's really what we're talking about, entering these plain language prompts and getting some output. Now, you've heard the reference to GPT, right? Not exactly it doesn't roll off the tongue, even in English, right? We call it ChatGPT, but ChatGPT is a form of GPT, which actually stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And no, that is a mouthful, even as I said, in English. And it's not really created by a marketing team. That's a term that is created by a technology team. But it's useful and interesting to know, well, what is GPT? Why do we say ChatGPT? What is this word? What do these words mean? So I want to give you a quick explanation of that. Actually, when you start getting into the words, it's not as complicated as it might seem on the surface. So generative basically means it's going to generate some sort of output. It needs to understand what we've typed in. This is the natural language processing. And then there's going to be some sort of output, which is the natural language generation. So it processes our language coming in, and then it processes an output, which is the generation outward. So you got the words entered, and then it creates the response. And that's what we mean by generative. It comes from the form to generate, right? To generate a new output. So here's an example. Comes back to my first example. List and describe 5 trends in retail. And the computer needs to understand what are the words. So it takes these words like list, it understands the word list, describe 5 trends, retail, and it breaks these into words that become what are called tokens. And that's how it starts to make sense, because it knows if I see these, then I need to take certain actions. Okay, so for example, to take those words and then generate an answer, you get the prior part here, a trend in retail is, and now in the software embedded in this model is potential answers. So a trend in retail is e-commerce, right? Because it comes up a lot. And when the AI was being trained on the words and the sentences, it noticed that this is pretty much very often an answer to this prompt. And so it could be a lot of different things, but it has a high probability. It says there's a 96% chance that the right answer here could be e-commerce. Now, one thing I want you to pay attention to is a prompt output is probabilistic. Okay, what I mean by that is, hopefully there's a good translation of that. It's got a high probability of being correct. It doesn't know, it's not deterministic, which means we absolutely know the answer. So AI in the form we have it today, the generative form, is probabilistic, which is very interesting because it's like a really good guess, right? And then we get to so GPT, generative, and then we get to P, which is pre-trained. And that just means we're feeding an awful lot of data into these systems. In fact, the software, the data that is used in all of the generative AI solutions that we see today are scraped from the internet. The public data that's available, we call it common crawl, and it's a lot of data. That is a lot. I mean, we're talking big numbers here. All the data from the internet, and we want also lots more because that will give us the answer pretty much for most prompts. And so what we want is, not only do we want lots and lots of data, but we want to train that data so that the software effectively can make some good probabilities. And just a little while ago, we had something called GPT-3, that's the version. And the training resulted in a sort of a mathematical quantification of what the possible outcomes were. And we saw 175 billion potential, parameters that would inform a good answer. You don't need to think more about that. It's just might be interesting to some of you. But you can see, as we went to GPT-4, which is the latest version, or GPT-4 Turbo, we don't know the exact number because the vendor is a little bit coy on it, but we think the number is about a trillion. So the takeaway here is, as generative AI gets better, it gets better because we have more data and more parameters. And so going from 175 billion to 1 trillion, that's a very big leap. And that's why we're getting much better results from these new versions. And so the last word is transformer, generative pre-trained transformer. And this is really the magic. This is where ChatGPT comes from. It is the process by which it determines that outcome, but it's learned and it looks at the context of the whole sentence. So it's not just looking at part of it, because when you type in a lot of different prompts, which we'll see in a moment, a good answer will take into consideration the context in which you actually are asking the question. So what can we do with it? What are some of the basic functions of at least ChatGPT? Well, we can use it for just basic searches. We're just going to, like we do with Google, we're just going to get ask a question, and it's going to give us some sort of answer. We can do follow-ups, which you can't do with traditional search engines. And you can see here, we can ask for explanations, we can have it create lists, even write jokes and recipes if we put in different ingredients. And we'll see that in action in a moment. It can summarize content, which can be useful to you. If you have a 60-page document and you want a 1-page summary, well, this software is going to do that for you. It can even write software code, and I want to show that to you. It can translate between different software code. And the newest versions don't just take text, but they actually take pictures. We can input pictures, which I'll show you. And we can also input things like sounds. And these become different ways to create prompts. So it's not just typing, but it's inputting images, movie files, audio, and getting some output as well. So what I want to do is go ahead and let's play with this. Let's actually see this in action. You've heard enough of my theory, but now let's go ahead and begin to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and share the ChatGPT. Now, I did confirm that ChatGPT is available and functioning in Serbia. So you can use this. You just go, if you want to use it with me and you don't already have it on your computer, you don't need to install anything, but you do need to register. So just type in ChatGPT into Google or your search engine and just follow a couple of prompts. It's just going to want your name and your email address, and I think then you'll be straight into it, right? And I also want to let you know that it's free, okay? The version we're going to use today, so that you can follow along with me, is up here, ChatGPT 3.5. But obviously, if you're interested in this and it's very powerful, there's a paid version which allows for some more capability. But I'm going to tell you, much like Google Search, which is also free, ChatGPT 3.5 is going to give you most of the capabilities that you would need every day to do some really good things in your work. Now, look at a couple of things here. At the very bottom of the screen, it says ChatGPT can make mistakes. Consider checking important information. Okay, so this is considered, as is all the generative AI, sort of experimental and a work in progress. There's some real complexity about making it really accurate. And because it is probabilistic too, the answer is you can have a fairly high degree of confidence, but you have to understand there may be some problems with the answers. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to just type in something here. So you're going to do everything down here in the message box right? Again, I suggest if you can, just follow along or try it yourself. And we could ask a simple question. And I'm going to type in actually, what is the history of Singapore? Seeing as I'm in Singapore, and I think that's an interesting question. Let's just go ahead and hit enter, and ChatGPT goes off, and it looks at its its knowledge repository, and here we get, as you can see, in real time. I've prepared nothing here in advance. This is all happening as we speak. Okay, we're getting an awful lot of information here. You can see it scrolled. So at the top here, I just want to show you a couple of things. The history of Singapore is rich and diverse. Here's a brief overview of key events in the history, and you can see nicely listed, right? There isn't, like, you didn't get 1,000 results like you would with maybe a search engine, and it gives you some details here. It's quite long here, but we could do two things. So we could actually ask for more, or we could, in fact, say we'd like this to be summarized because in fact it's too much to consume. I'm going to just go ahead, and I don't know why I'm going to be mannered, but I'm going to say please summarize. You don't have to actually say please, but maybe some of you would feel better about that. So it knows that it wants me to it knows that I wanted to summarize what I just typed in. So it goes ahead and does that. So it has sort of this memory, right? We sometimes call ChatGPT a conversational bot because now we're having a dialogue, right? If you think about your search engine and you put a search in, you can't really follow that up with a follow-up search so that the search engine knows what you were just talking about. That's different here. We can do this follow-up. Now, I got a nice little summary. You can see it's much shorter here, but in fact, I want to actually use this for a child. So I'm going to say rephrase for a child, right? And you can see that it rewrites it yet again, but this time in the language that maybe a child would like. And this can be very helpful. On the other hand, we could also ask it to be a lot more complex. So remember, if you are interested in something, topic, and you want to know more about the topic, ChatGPT will just help you get some good information, good rich information on your request. Okay, but let's start to look at some other features because it's not nearly as narrow as that. We can do an awful lot of things. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do some translations. Okay, and we're going to just use the English I have here, and I'm going to say translate this to Serbian, right? Okay, so you can tell me, maybe you can do a thumbs up if you think it's good. We're going to go ahead and hit enter here. And now it generates the paragraph before in Serbian. Now, I can't vouch for whether it's good or not because only you know that. Okay. If you think it wrote it well, go ahead and do a thumbs up on Zoom there so I can see. Let's see if anybody has written anything. That's okay. Oh yeah, getting plenty of thumbs up. Oh, fantastic. Okay, so it did quite a good job. Now let's do. We'll actually build on this. We'll now do convert. Oh, I have to type it in here. Write this in Cyrillic, right? So hopefully that does it from here, but I'm going to now say write this in Cyrillic. So hey, that's pretty cool. Look at that. It even knows to convert the Serbian into Cyrillic writing. Look at that, beautiful. That's going to help a lot. Okay, so we have full support for English to Serbian, and then you could do, you can go from Cyrillic or Serbian into French or German. We can go between different languages. So already is pretty useful for doing all types of translation. Okay, I'm going to just go back and just demonstrate another thing here. So I'll do something simple about the when was Singapore founded? Just again, sort of basic question. Very quick answer there. Now I say, tell me more. Okay, so I'm having a conversation and I'm wanting to kind of derive more information here. Now you start to see a lot more text coming out. right? And then we go ahead, we say, okay, I'm going to need to send this to somebody. Translate, translate this to French. Okay, here we go. For the French speakers, you can take a look and see if you like that. Okay, you can always, by the way, you can always break if, you can always stop it if it's going on too long. Now, what I wanted to do is scroll back up, because you can see we can scroll up here. It says here, Singapore was founded as a British trading post by Sir Stamford Raffles on September the 6th, 1819. Now, you can help the ChatGPT get smarter, because you can do a couple of things here. You can do a thumbs up or thumbs down. If you think it was a good answer, which I think that was a good answer, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Click that right there. But I'm not going to give it additional feedback. I'm going to hit submit. I've just improved the artificial intelligence, because it's called this is called human reinforcement. We're helping it know if it's doing it good or bad. Now, down here, I asked, say, tell me more, and it gave me a lot more information. And we could just simply, copy this and paste it into Word or Google Docs. We could also just hit the clipboard here. So hit copy. And now if you go into Word or Google Docs, Control-C, or just paste, I'm sorry, not Control-C, Control-V, or paste in your application, and that brings the content over to your favorite processor. Okay, let's move along. We can have it create now an original joke. I thought you might enjoy this. And so what will we do? So we can say, write a joke about jet lag. Now, the reason why I do this is because I've been traveling quite a lot in the last few weeks, and I've been having terrible jet lag. So I need a joke, write a joke on jet lag. Let's see if it does it well. It says, why did the airplane go to therapy? Because it had too much jet lag and couldn't get its schedule to take off. Okay, I don't know if that's funny or not, but anyway, you can see how it generates an original joke here. Now, one thing to think about is what's actually happening. Well, the ChatGPT doesn't know what a joke is, to be honest with you. It doesn't actually know humor, but it does know that jokes take a certain form. And as it writes the actual answer here, it starts with and it does a probability thing. So it says the right word here would be airplane. So 96% chance airplane, go to, and then the next one could be therapy, because we know we have a nice answer now. So all this is sort of like predicting, the computer sort of figuring out the next word to write based on probabilities. And somehow it actually comes up with something decent. Now, I actually don't like this joke, I'm going to say, so I wanted to repeat the answer. So there's a symbol here at the bottom called regenerate. I'm going to just go ahead and ask for it to regenerate. And let's see if this one is funnier. Why did the jet lag person go to the airport's fancy restaurant? Because they heard it's the only place where time flies faster than the jet lag. These are not funny jokes. So I'm going to say that was worse. Okay. I actually gave it some information there. Okay. We could continue this sort of trend here. It can write all sorts of things, but we're going to write a poem. And again, I want to make it relevant. I'm going to say, write a poem about heat and humidity, because that's what I'm suffering from here in Singapore, in the style of, who should we use as the style? In the style of Shakespeare. Okay, I don't know. That's the easiest one that we all know. Okay, so the actual commands, the more detailed they are, the better the answers. So let's go ahead, write a poem about heat and humidity in the style of Shakespeare. And remarkably, these poems are absolutely fabulous. The poems don't exist, right? So it's not going to a repository of poems. But let's take a look here. In fair Verona streets where heat does dwell, a summer's day with humidity swell, the sun a fiery orb and azure sky doth scorch the earth where weary mortals lie. That's very good. That is really good. I mean, good language. It actually is really meaningful. And you can see the rest there. We could always come back to that. Everything, by the way, I'm typing in right now is stored over here in the history on the left. So if I exit out of ChatGPT and I want to come back and go back to this poem, I should be able to retrieve it. Now, in the free version of ChatGPT. You can go here. I'm on the bottom left here. I can go to settings, and we can look at a couple of things. Data controls. It says save any chats on the browser to your history and allow them to be used to improve our models. Unsaved chats will be deleted after 30 days. You can also export anything. So if you want to, again, take the content and put it in another application where you can use it later, you get that right here. And then under general, you can archive because, you know, let's see what it says in the manage. Oh, no, I don't have anything there. It will eventually delete it won't forever keep your content there. So be sure to keep everything that is valuable to you outside of ChatGPT. Okay, now we've done some simple things. We've asked questions. We've asked it to create a joke and some poetry. Again, very straightforward. And my guess is many of you have actually done this before. But let's do something. Let's get a bit more sophisticated because ChatGPT can handle a lot of different types of prompts. And one of the things it can do is create lists. Lists are really great. So what I want to do is, let's see, I'm going to just say, because I like music, I'm a musician, I'm going to say create a list of English bands from the 1970s, okay? Now, I don't know how many it's going to do. I think it's probably a default, probably 10. But, you know, again, it comes up with a nice list here. You can agree or disagree. Wait a minute, how far is it going to go? Okay, we could have said list of 5. We could say a list of 25. ChatGPT does like when you are very, very specific. So now I can do another thing. I can say I like the Beatles and Oasis, right? Suggest 2 other bands like these, okay? So very, very natural language. And it comes back and says, if you enjoy the Beatles and Oasis, you might like these 2 bands. So it actually suggests the Kinks and Blur. So, you know, give it a list of things that are in context, and then ask the ChatGPT to offer up its suggestions on your list. So we'll actually get a bit more elaborate on this in a moment. It can also deal with mathematics pretty good. So we can put in here something like, well, we can do simple stuff is like 2 + 3 equals, you know, just simple like math like that. But then we can say, what's the square root of, and I'll just make up a big old number here out of randomness. There you get the answer. Now I like this one is list prime numbers. This is the nerd, the geek in me, right? List prime numbers between 1,000 and 2,000. That's actually a difficult thing to do, but well, we could actually do it with much larger numbers. So here are prime numbers. They're listed. Okay, it's quite a few, in fact. Oh, well, there are actually too many, so I'm gonna shut that down. But you can see it can do some pretty. Now you can do a lot more sophisticated math than this. I'm just giving you some simple math. So it actually really likes to do mathematics for you. In ChatGPT 4, you could write the formula and actually upload it as an image. In the free version, we can only do text, but you can describe the math and it'll make sense of it for you. Okay, so let's do some goals. So I'm going to say I need to lose 10 pounds, my weight, in 2 months. What's the best way to do this? What's the best way to do this? Okay, so this is actually good because I'm saying I'm giving it criteria. I need to lose 10 pounds in 2 months. What's the best way? So it likes the fact that I gave it some specificity. And actually, in a minute, I'm going to even give it some more. Okay, so it's figuring out that diet is always good, you know, hydration, avoid sugar, we know that. Monitor your progress, consult a healthcare professional. Okay, now, but I want to make it a bit more specific. So I'm going to say, what should I do as a middle-aged man? I'm only referring to me, right? So now it gives me something a little bit more specific based on the fact that I'm male and I'm middle-aged. So it actually threw in there some sleep, which I agree, stay active, financial planning. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Oh, now I see what's happening. It's giving me more advice, just generally what I should do. I should have said, what should I do for my exercise routine? Okay, now let's talk about government a little bit. So we want to go ahead and say, I don't know what you call it in Serbia, or I'm going to just say here in the US, when you are working with a city, you need to create a city manager's report. So I might want to know as an intern or maybe as an associate, what should I include in a city manager report, right? So now it gives me sort of the starting point of guidance. And so here is what you typically see in an American city manager report. So this is really good. And it's not writing the report for me, but it's telling me like a nice format, which can be really valuable. You can see there's a lot of good stuff here. Okay. And here's something. I'm going to actually try something here just out of nowhere. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I'm going to say, what form should an update to the Serbian government take? Okay, so who knows what we'll get as in the answer here, but I'm doing it right now as we speak. Okay, so you can laugh, or you can put your thumbs up or thumbs down if you think this is all nonsense. But usually it comes from some corpus of knowledge from Serbia, right? This was quite a lot of specificity here. So let's scroll up a little bit and see what it said. If you're providing an update to the Serbian government, the format and structure of your communication will depend on the nature of the update and specific requirements. Here's some general considerations: formal letter, structured report, presentation of slide, official forms and templates, language and cultural sensitivity. Ensure that your communication is in Serbian as it's the official language. That makes sense. And some other information here. Okay, so that was quite nice. What I could do is, if I wasn't happy with the specificity, I could ask now, follow up, can you give me more detail? But we're going to keep moving on because I want to cover a lot of things right now. We're going to get a complaint from a member of our community, and we want to kind of understand how should we respond. So I'm going to now provide some more details. I want the bones, I want the outline of an email that I can send to somebody because they've complained. So I'm going to say a community member has complained about the increase in traffic in their community. Okay, so they're not in their city, right? Not an unusual thing, people complaining about traffic. Write a letter to the community member, coming from the transportation manager, right? Okay, so what I've done here is I've set the stage. Community members complain about the increase in traffic, and now I want the request, which is write a letter to the community letter as if it was coming from the transportation manager. So let's have a look, see what it does. So here we go. We get some, preamble, which we can fill out ourselves. And now it says, it gives us actually a nice little overview of the issue. And it's got all the politeness here. Okay, written quite nice actually in this one. So let's scroll up to that top, and it says, it's got the typical details of the person from to, and then it's dear, and you swap that out. I hope this letter finds you well. I'm writing to address the concerns you recently raised about the increase in traffic in our city. As the transportation manager for such city, I appreciate your engagement and take your feedback seriously. And then, of course, we don't have time, but you can see here how here are some of the steps, and it's giving some ideas. Now, we can actually have a bit of fun with this. I'm going to say rewrite the letter, or I'm going to just say shorten the letter. It's too long. Okay, so let's say let's see what it's like if we shorten it. Okay, this is much better. There we go. Just a few sentences. Now we could get a bit funny because I'm going to say, so write it again, but be more coarse, right? Which basically means, you know, be a little bit more hardcore in the answer. We'll see what it says. Okay, this should be fun. Okay, so I like this version. I got your complaint about the crazy traffic and I feel your pain. It's a real headache. I know I'm the transportation manager. And I want you to know we're not sitting on our butts here. Okay, that's pretty funny, right? So we could, again, remember, we could actually have it written in many different styles from many different people. And sometimes, you know, when you're writing to a community member, you know, a constituent, it's hard to know how to start the letter, how to kind of frame it. And whilst I'm not suggesting you take the letter and just mail it as is, now you've got the sort of the outline of something that you could use. And so that that can be very, very helpful. Okay, so let's actually do something a little different. Now I want to create a schedule, right? So why don't we sort of talk about maybe about project? Create a schedule that for planning an event at our city, right? Now I'm giving it some basic information here. I probably should give it a lot more. So here it gives you sort of like the overview, 6 months before the event, 4 months before, and it's, you know, pretty broad. You're going to get better answers the more specific you are. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that because it's actually quite detailed. And we're going to put in here, create a schedule for an event that celebrates the anniversary of our country that will be held in October 2024. Okay. Now it's a lot more specific, right? Now it actually gives you some dates and then talks about all the things you should do. It's quite detailed here. Okay. Now, again, what I might suggest to you is if you like any of this and you're thinking about this in your job, is put more specificity in, but also, like, for example, this is quite good, but it's not detailed enough. I might follow this up with provide more details on, like, on a daily schedule, but we won't do that just in the interest of time. Now we have a schedule. What about a project plan? So that's very common in our world. You know, create a Gantt chart for the deployment of new software. Okay, we'll see what it comes up with when I write that. And in fact, you notice something new for the very first time, which is a new window comes up here, which includes a actual Gantt chart. Some of you who are project managers are probably saying, "Oh, this is nice." Okay, so again, I didn't give it a lot of details. So what we can do, we got this completely new screen in here. We can just go ahead and click copy code. And then this will be a text file that you can import into a Microsoft project or into your favorite project planning tool. But again, I wouldn't just say create a Gantt chart for the deployment of new software. Give it a lot more details. When you're going to start, when you want to finish, what are some of the milestones? And that'll be quite helpful for you. Let's see. Now, one of the things that a lot of us do is we create a lot of content. So we're creating content for other people, for reports, but we also maybe want to create social media posts. So I'm going to go ahead and ask for suggestions on create a Facebook post about the new law that was passed. What are we going to say here? New law was passed for creating more cycle paths. Okay. Let's see what it says. Here we go. Exciting news for cyclists. Hey, cycling community, great news. Our city just passed a groundbreaking law dedicated to enhancing cycling infrastructure. Okay, this is cool. And you can see that it adds all the emoticons, right? Now, this is pretty elaborate. So I'm going to just say create a shorter version because that's nobody has the patience to read these long things anymore. I'm going to say create a shorter. Remember, you could have a conversation. So create a shorter version. Here we go. Exciting news, new bike packs alert. And it gives us some information, why it matters, right? That's pretty good. Get involved. And again, it's a nice starting point. So you don't need to use the entire post. You can use your own words. You can put in your own government URLs and links. Maybe you can link to the legislation. Very, very nice for creating content for your website, for your social media correspondence, even for your press releases. I think I might have it coming up, but just in case I don't, I'm going to say create a press release for this new law. Okay, so you're probably doing that as well. Here we go. Pretty nice. Now we can send this to our friendly media. Okay. Let's go. Let's go. It's very verbose today. He wants to do a lot of chatting, I noticed. Okay, so scroll up to the top here. So remember, my prompt up here was way up here was create a Facebook post about the new law that was passed for creating more cycle paths, right? And then we got the Facebook post, and then we got a shorter version. And then I asked it to create a press release for this new law. And now you get for immediate release, and got the heading paves the way for, Belgrade paves the way for sustainable transportation with new cycling infrastructure law. And then it goes on, it got in the format of a really professional press release. And remember, it's just a good starting point. You don't necessarily need to use exactly as it is. I think it's just this is what people are finding, that we don't want it to sound like it's written by AI or written by somebody else, but we want the help to kind of get it started. Okay, so let's actually inquire about something complex. So let's say you want to know, maybe for some reason you want to know what is blockchain, right? Okay, this is a technology some of you have heard about. I'm just going to say, what is blockchain? And then it's going to go ahead and give me, some elaborate explanation. And then what I want to do is, when it's finished here, you could actually copy and paste any sort of material in here. You could say, here's content. But what I actually want to do, what I can do is take a part of this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and take this cryptography part here. And I'm going to write down here, simplify this. And then I go ahead and I paste it in my text there. Oh, this is interesting. And it looks like a new feature, actually. So I said simplify this, and then I pasted in the part that it was complicated. And it said, which do I like better? So I got two responses. Now I'm not going to read them. I'm just going to say response 1. I clicked in it, and it gives me that simplified response there. So think of ChatGPT as a way to simplify your life too. Like if you get content that you don't understand, you can just paste it in there and ask it to simplify it for you. Now you could ask for sort of what are the top 5 things I should know about climate change, right? So maybe you're going into a meeting and you're not ready, it's a new topic. So I'm going to say, what are the top 5 things I should know about climate change? Let me see what it says. I can pretend that I know a lot about it, and then it gives me 5 points here. It's derived somewhere from the internet, right? Okay, some good information here. I like that a lot. You can ask for, latest developments. What are the latest developments in traffic management, right? Making it a little bit more relevant to our world. Okay. So something you might note there is ChatGPT 3.5 isn't up to the minute. So it does give a little disclaimer there. It says it's this is a little older information. But again, if I need just some kind of basic content to bring to a meeting or to put into a report or talk to somebody about, I can get sort of the most important things pretty quickly established. We could do right. So now something that's very common is to compare and contrast things. So let's choose something. We're going to say, compare and contrast regulations with laws. Okay. So you could do two different things, of course. So now what it's going to do is take, these ideas, and for each of their different sections, kind of tell me what the differences are between laws and regulations. Sometimes things that we use interchangeably, but in fact, they are different things. We did the text. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to have ChatGPT sort of help me write something maybe better, write it in a better way. So we're going to say an email. So I'm going to say rewrite. Rewrite this email. Dear boss, I need to take vacation immediately because all the work you're giving me is giving me a headache. Okay. Now, I said rewrite this email. I'm going to say write this email more politely, right? So let's actually, dear boss, I need to take a vacation immediately because all the work you're giving me is giving me a headache. Okay, so let's see, let's see what this looks like when it's written by GPT in a bit more politeness. I hope the message finds you well. I wanted to discuss the possibility of taking a vacation at the earliest convenience. Recently, I've been experiencing a bit of stress, and I believe some time off would be beneficial to me to recharge and come back with a fresh perspective. I appreciate your understanding. So yes, the rewriting of my very blunt and request was nicely done there. So it's not, the point here is think about all the different ways you'd like to say something or to write an email, and this can be really helpful. Now we could say write it even more politely, or we could ask, be a bit rude, but we won't do that because we're not. That's not the type of people we are. We could summarize. And so now I want to move on to another idea, which is, can we get some advice? Okay, so this is where you might have more of a conversation. I want to, I want to propose. So I want to propose an idea to the mayor, but I don't. Okay. How should I begin this work? Okay. Of course, if you have plenty of time, you can think about a better way to say this. But what we're asking here is how we might approach a mayor about a new idea. It gives us some ideas here. Okay. Okay, so that was quite nice. Got some ideas there. Now, some things that we do as government leaders and government participants, some things we do is we do a lot of speeches, or we have to do a lot of presentations. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to be a government leader now, and I need a script. So I am, oops. Okay, I am a minister in the energy department, of a country. I have visitors. I have government visitors coming from Singapore. Write a welcome speech. Okay, I'm going to just be really succinct. Okay, so I'm a minister in the energy department of a country. I have government visitors coming from Singapore. Write a welcome speech. Okay, so let's see what it does with that. Ladies and gentlemen, okay. Now, not only is it going to write a nice speech in the kind of form of a minister, but hopefully it's going to include some details about the country of Singapore too. So, so it's good morning. It's with great pleasure and honor that I extend a warm welcome to your distinguished guests from Singapore, who have graced us with their presence today. As Jonathan in the energy department of our esteemed country, I'm delighted to host this delegation. Singapore, with its dynamic and innovative approach to energy, has long been a beacon of inspiration. Okay, you get the idea. It actually did quite well. Now I might follow up and say, rewrite this with more details about Singapore's use of non-carbon energy, right? Now we're being really specific here. Okay. So it's now grabbing more information. Yeah, there's a lot of really good detail here. I mean, that's a lot quicker. I'm not suggesting you fire your speech writers, but this can be really, really helpful. We did some mathematics, and okay, the last thing I want to show you with ChatGPT is software code, because this is where it gets really impressive. So I'm going to ask it to write some very basic HTML. HTML, for those not aware on this session, is the code that typically is behind the scenes in your browser that shows a web page. Okay, so when we are generating the code for a web page, we have to have this language called hypertext markup language. So I'm going to do something really quite sort of what used to be very, very complicated, but I'm gonna make it see how easy this is. So I need to write I need to tell the computer what I'd like to have on the website, but I've never written code in my life. So well, I'm pretending, but I'm going to be I've never written any code for a website. So so I'm going to say create an HTML, or create the HTML code for the following web page. Okay, the web page should include fields for first name and last name, and include a submission button. Okay, I think that's pretty straightforward, plain language, right? So I'm asking create the code for the following web page. The web page should include, fields, so you get a first name and a last name and a submission button. Okay, it's as simple as that. I'm going to go ahead and see if I did okay with my prompting. So this takes whoops. This is taking a little longer, but maybe it's needing me to. Let's go ahead and go save and submit again. Okay, I don't know why it's paused there. There was nothing particularly interesting. Okay, so let's see what happened here. We simply said create the web page, and ChatGPT spun up a new box. You can see this box on the screen with some code. Now you don't need to know anything about this code, but you need to just know how to copy it. So we're going to go ahead, or I'm going to go ahead and copy the code, right? And I'm going to do something just behind the scenes here. I'm just going to copy that code into a notepad document here. So you can't see it all because I'm not showing my entire screen, but I'm not doing anything magical. I'm actually just going to do this so I can prepare it on my machine. I go to Serbia here, and then I'm going to go say new, and I'm going to do a text document. And what I'm doing actually with this text document is I'm going to paste that code into that text document, and I'm going to save it as a test website. Okay, that's what I'm doing here in the back end. Nothing too elaborate. And I go ahead and save that. And then I'm going to go into my folder, and I do need to actually change it into an HTML. So let me quickly do this. There's always a chance that because I'm trying to get a lot covered today, that it doesn't actually work. But I am going to now launch this, and of course, give me one moment. Oops. Please share. Oh, I see what's happening. Okay. Stop share. Okay, so I want to just bring that up in a moment. So I got my actual document pasted, but I want to convert it to an HTML file. So why can I not do that? I am going to actually move on, simply because we haven't got much time. Thank you for the thumbs up. There's always a risk, of course, that my trying to be a little bit too clever, I ended up not being able to share it with you there. But and I wanted to actually show you the real thing. So I just couldn't get it into an HTML file type, so that was the problem. But anyway, you saw how the code was generated. The last thing I want to show you here on ChatGPT is to convert this. Not only do I have HTML code now, but I want to convert it to another code, like it translate to something like Python. So I could say create this code in another language called Python. And then it sort of will give me more options to do that in a different language. Okay, we could spend a lot of time with that. I wish I had more time, and I wish I'd have been able to convert the file there quickly for you to show you, because it actually is quite impressive when it works. But it's late here in Singapore, and I have jet lag, so we'll move on. Okay, that's all I wanted to show you actually in ChatGPT. What I want to do now is go to Google Bard, which is another version of generative AI, and assuming everything works, show you some of the differences and some things you can do with that. So, oh, for some reason I actually shut it down here. It looks like. Okay, there we go. We're going to go ahead and share it's Google Bard. Okay, here we go. So the first thing I want to say is that much like ChatGPT 3.5, a Bard is actually free, and you just go to bard.google.com, and it does everything that I have shown you over the last hour or so. It does all of that as well. So we could do something just to show you the difference. If I type in here at the bottom, okay, show me pictures of Hawaii. Unlike ChatGPT, which is the version that I use is just text-based, this actually incorporates the search results plus images, and it gives me their source. So you may prefer this because you want to have more imagery in your responses. Also, I wanted to show you at the bottom here, it says Bard may display inaccurate info, including about people, so double check its responses, right? That also means it's sort of, it's probabilistic and it's experimental. So be definitely aware that when you're seeking very detailed and important information, it might make sense to occasionally double check it. Okay. We did the images. Okay. Now, but I wanted to show you the difference. Something we couldn't do with ChatGPT 3.5 was use graphics. Now, what I want to do is I actually want to upload a picture and ask what's in the picture. So there's a little button here on the left-hand side of the input box. I'm going to hit that. And you might not be able to see this, but I'm going to select a picture of a plate of food. So let's go ahead and select that picture. It'll come up. You'll see it in a moment here. I'm not doing anything secret or anything. I'm simply uploading. Okay, so now you can see on the screen a picture of a plate of food. And I'm going to ask what is on this plate. Okay, so the generative AI is going to interpret the photograph and try to tell me what it sees on it. So it takes a little moment. It's not easy. We're pushing the technology here a little bit. I hope there's no challenge here. But okay, so it's done quite nice. It says, based on the image you sent, the plate contains the following items: grilled salmon, white rice, mixed vegetables, a lemon wedge, and it talks about the plate. So pretty good at actually identifying it. But let's do something a bit more interesting, which is how many calories are on this plate. Now, obviously it's going to be a bit of a guess, but it's doing some pretty complex stuff here. It's interpreting what's in the picture, and now it's also adding. Oh, I didn't hit enter here. Now it's going to make some determinations based on the visualization of the size of the food, how many calories might be on this plate. So taking a little longer. That's okay. So it's an estimate, right? It says the grilled salmon, a 3-ounce grilled salmon contains about 220 calories. The white rice about 100. The mixed vegetables have only about 50. And so you can. That's first of all kind of nice. But then it also has things like, how you can reduce or affect the actual calories. Now, you could ask a lot of things about pictures, and that can be quite helpful. But I want to do something else, which is I want to upload a picture of an actual chart, and this is for actually blood pressure. So I'm going to go ahead and it's a picture. Remember, this is this is not a spreadsheet or something. And so I'm going to say, what is this image telling me, right? So there's my blood pressure chart that I've uploaded, and then I'm going to ask, what is this image telling me? Again, it's got to process. There's a lot going on in the background here, up on the Google servers. Okay, so now it starts to talk about the details. This image you sent is a blood pressure chart by age. It shows the average blood pressure for different age groups. And then it says, important to know this is a general chart, and then there's some additional information. What I want to do here, and now there's a little risk here. I've done this a couple of times, and sometimes I don't get the result I want. But I'm going to do something a bit interesting, which is I'm going to ask it to actually extract the data from the image. Extract the data from the image in Google Sheets format. Okay, I hope this works. We can try another in a moment, but I'm actually, remember, it's a kind of a photo or an image. It's a solid image. I'm actually asking for it now to extract the content of that in the form of a Google Sheet. We could also do Microsoft, but okay. Okay, it didn't quite want that. Okay, it didn't quite like that. So let's try. What do they say here? I'm just going to say extract the data from the image. Okay, I'm going to be a bit more plain language and see what it says, because it should work. It didn't like it that time, but this is the always the fun of doing a live demo. Okay. Okay. Still isn't happy with that. Upload, paste. Okay. I'll try one more time. Extract the data in the chart as text. Okay, one more time. You can see I'm pretty persistent. It has worked. It would be fun to show you that, but no. Okay. So it is actually fighting me on this, so I won't fight it any further. But I think you get the idea that we can Google Bard not only is like ChatGPT, but it also offers up a lot of visualization options. Now, I'm going to sort of conclude what I wanted to say about generative AI by looking at another solution from Microsoft. And this is a generative AI driven solution called Microsoft Designer. So let me go ahead and bring that up. And this is where we can have actually a lot of fun. Okay. This is where we can create really cool images. So it's free. It's called Microsoft Bing or Microsoft Image Creator from Designer. So you should be able to use it. And what we're going to do is we're going to just describe something that we'd like to see. So I'm going to say, draw a picture. Draw a picture of a small town in Serbia, populated by teddy bears. Okay. Now, again, I'm doing this on the fly. I don't know what's going to happen, but let's have a bit of fun. Okay, so this will also take a few moments. Now, this is where prompts are not just create other text prompts, but actually takes the text, converts it to graphics, and it creates an original. And it should create a series of images that I can choose from. So you can see it's running the AI here in the background. And remember, it's doing quite a lot of computation. So here we go. Okay, you never know what you're going to get. So actually a few different styles here, but it was quite a heavy task actually. Like, go ahead, you can see it here. Right, here's the picture it came up with, the Serbian town with some teddy bears. Okay, maybe we do something just a little bit simpler. So we're going to write here, create, or just, we don't even have to say it, we just simply say image with a frog on a motorcycle in the style of Disney. Oh no, we can't say Disney. We've got to say, let's say Pixar. It doesn't like Disney for some reason. I think there's some copyright issue there. But so I'm going to say image with a frog on a motorcycle in the style of Pixar, right? Our Pixar movies. See what it does here. We'll just do one. And of course, it's running the AI here. You can see running at the bottom. And it should come up with it in just a moment. Okay, that's pretty cool. We got 4 options here. And let's open this one. Okay, pretty cool, right? Frog on a motorcycle, and it's got the cars behind here. I see that cars from the Pixar movie, the Cars, right? Now we can do a lot more serious things. You know, we can do it in different styles. You can do watercolor style, or even like old movie style. So you can have some fun with that. It might be nice when you're creating, documentation, or you need to explain something, to create some original artwork to go with it. And the great thing for you as professional is there's no copyright on these. These are original graphics, and we'll see. Rather than maybe hiring an expensive artist or a firm, you can actually do this yourself. But I have to say, we can employ people who can write really good prompts. That is, clearly that's a very important science for and profession. It's growing into a very, very nice profession. Okay, so I covered a little bit of what you can do, kind of the capabilities. If I could just summarize, your prompts should be detailed and long. Mine, for the purposes of efficiency and our time together, I did very short ones. But don't be afraid to sort of like give it a lot of information. Generative AI likes detail and specificity, right? So, and make it command driven, like create this for me, create the list, build this project, develop a document, give it verbs so it knows exactly what you're going after. And if you don't like what it produces, ask it to do it again and to do it differently, and maybe add more content that would help you get a better outcome. Now we're just going to go back to the slides, and I got a few more things I wanted to share with you about this topic. So going ahead and getting PowerPoint on the screen here. Okay, we'll go to some questions soon, so definitely get your questions ready. So here we go. Okay, so actually we had gone through the list. Okay, let's fast forward. Quick recap here. Okay. Okay, so what I wanted to do, I wanted to finish on some of the opportunities and risks, and then go to Q&A. So one of the things that's probably top of mind for you is, will this get rid of my job, or will this create a lot of unemployment? Look, the correct answer to this question is we don't really know. There will be some impact on employment over time. But look at this report. This is a recent report from the World Economic Forum about the fastest growing jobs versus the fastest declining jobs. And it's interesting to see that folks involved in AI and machine learning will be actually one of the hottest in-demand type jobs. A lot of technology jobs, because we are moving to an information economy in most major economies in the world. And on the right-hand side, you see some opportunity where if you are pursuing these roles, or you have these roles, there could be some significant impact in some period of time in the future. I like this particular sort of image here, where it talks about the transition from work done by humans to work done by machines. You can see in 2022, the 66% of work was done by humans, and that drops to by 27 to 57%. A lot of these are sort of speculation. There's a lot of uncertainty, but we can't say that there will be displacement, and certain jobs will, over some period of time, go away. Now, there's a better way to think about this, in my view, which is people who have AI skills will probably do better than those who don't have AI skills. But we can think of AI augmenting human activity, right? So AI can take some of the burden away, and we can even become more advanced, more sophisticated in what we can do as humans by complementing our work with AI. We'll certainly see the incorporation of AI into all sorts of aspects of our world. Here you see, for example, a robot conducting an operation. The actual surgeon might be at a distance, or the robot may be, in fact, developing, actually, independently providing the operation here. It's going to be one of those sort of more cultural and sort of human discussions, is, are we okay with this? And because the data is going to show, in all likelihood, that the surgery from a robot will be more successful than that of a human. And in the early sort of research on this, the answer is a lot of people are comfortable with a robot doing the operation, as long as there's humans in the room too, and that's what you see here. Now, what does AI look like in a government context, or generative AI in particular? It's all over the place, to be honest with you. We're very early in this, but some of the early wins include, for example, decision support, helping you make decisions by processing lots of data. The chatbots, on websites, and even for use by individuals. We see some good use in procurement for being able to vet and summarize large responses to RFPs. Plenty of automation of tasks that are common within the rank and file of government. And just as a supporting tool, one of the reasons so many of you are interested in this training today is that you can use this as a new tool in your work, right? And that's going to be very, very helpful. But it'll be interesting to see how you, as an organization and as a government, begin to think about its use. And also keep an eye on other governments. I did a review of sort of what was going on in Europe and the United States and other places, and it's just all over the place. There's not really a pattern emerging yet. Customer service, having chatbots and the ability for good, timely information to be presented to communities is where we see some of the hottest, most progressive work in this area right now. In the short to medium term, AI will advance very rapidly. But the biggest limitation based on the research is not so much the stuff that we, the technology to get stuff done, but it actually will be the ability to build and execute on our needs. And this comes down to a skills gap. So really just not having enough AI talent. In some countries, the shortfall will be hundreds of thousands of people. And in the case of America and China, we could see shortfalls in the millions of people in this space. But we also have to have leaders like you who understand the capabilities of AI and generative AI. So you know even the questions to ask and know even what it's capable of doing. If you don't act on it, or if you overact on it, it could be fatal. Because AI is going to create competitive advantage. Now, not such a big risk when it comes to the when it comes to the public sector, because you're not really competing. But certainly, if in the private sector you don't fully embrace AI and there's like expectation of that, it could be fatal. I want to remind you that all the things we saw today are fairly early in their development. The Google's Bard, OpenAI's ChatGPT, Microsoft's version, Claude from Anthropic, and even Facebook has their Llama AI. There's lots of really big companies spending billions of dollars to make all this happen, but it's still early and there's still risks. The data can be ugly, and so you might get actually a bad answer, and you might create content that's poor content. So we have to be conscientious that we're in the early days of what will be fabulous, I think, within a few years, but still we're at the point where we have to be careful with it. We are harvesting a lot of data to make all this work, and we will have to get very creative because at some point we're going to run out of data. We know that when we copy and use content, there's a possibility that it's copyrighted. I think we're going to see an awful lot of potential legal cases on this in the years ahead where content was used and shouldn't have been. I'll tell you something real quick about myself. I've written a lot about cities, and I've written a few books on the future of cities. And I was in a meeting where somebody did a little ChatGPT search on a definition of smart cities, and it came up on the screen. And I was reading it, and I said, that's familiar to me. And it turns out I actually wrote it. So it was my content was now part of ChatGPT's response. Be very careful. The things that you type into ChatGPT are stored. So be careful of privacy, particularly in government work. Assume that when you type it in there, just like a Google search, somebody else will get access to that information. Now, what we're seeing right now is this huge innovation, race, and so everybody thinks we got to implement, we got to do stuff, or we're going to be left behind. Maybe another city or another country is going to do much better things. But I think you got to be thoughtful and deliberate about this. Really, when does it make sense to implement an AI solution in your department, in your ministry? When does it make sense to buy it versus build it? And is it actually bringing a substantial new set of capabilities? You're going to see a lot of activity on the vendor side. So conduct very serious diligence on any vendor that is saying that their AI does the following. I will tell you this as somebody who lives in Silicon Valley and works with all sorts of startups. There is an overpromise happening, and I want you as a government to be aware of that overpromise. Just be really diligent, really force your questions, and make sure you're happy with what's being delivered. These are key aspects of the phenomena we're dealing with. Now, the last item I believe in terms of risks is this problem of hallucinations. And I wanted to give you a personal story about this. So hallucinations basically are when ChatGPT or any of the generative AI produces an answer that is actually bogus, is just made up. It's just a fake answer. And why it does that gets a little complicated. Why it does it? The other way of answering this question is we don't actually know. And this is a little bit creepy, but worth keeping in mind. The people who have developed generative AI they are also surprised at how it works. And we've created sort of this black box where we don't fully understand how the transformation is actually taking place. Yeah, I see some of your feedback there. That is a little bit interesting, where the people who build something don't actually know how it works. For example, when ChatGPT was built, there was an expectation it could do certain things. But when the kind of developers went ahead and they entered sort of new commands and it was able to figure out how to deal with it, they were unsure how it was able to do that. But I mean, that's part of the wonder and mystery of the times in which you live. In hallucinations, you type in a question and it comes back with a nice answer, what appears to be an answer, but in fact, it could be fake or erroneous. And then you have the question of, well, if this happens more often, or if the answer might be wrong, how comfortable are we with trusting the results? And I think every organization needs to make that determination. Now, what I want to show you here, this is what I thought was pretty funny. This is a generative AI solution called Claude. You can find it yourself on claude.io. And I typed in for fun a question about me. I said, who is Jonathan Reichental, the person you're dealing with right now? And I was quite, it was quite interesting to see what it came up with on the screen. It said, I'm the mayor of the Internet of Things, which in of itself is pretty hilarious. But it says, you know, I'm an American technology leader, and it gives some good information. You know, where I worked at the city of Palo Alto, I focus on emerging tech. All this is very cool. But until you get to the third bullet point here, is that he teaches at the University of San Francisco. That is correct. McLaren School of Business. There is no such thing as the McLaren School of Business. And it says that I teach in the Healthcare Information Technology Graduate Program. I do not teach in the Healthcare Information Technology Program. Now, the next one is even funnier. He says he hosts a popular podcast called Dr. Reality, where he interviews thought leaders about how technology is changing society. I do not host a podcast. I do not host a podcast called Dr. Reality, although that's a really good name. And I don't interview people. So I just want to be clear. I typed this into Claude, the generative AI, and it said a lot of things correctly, but it made up a lot of stuff about me, which gave me a smile, but also it gave me a little bit of caution, right? So be aware of that and validate as we go along. I think something like this will become an awful lot better in the months and years ahead. I don't expect that we'll have quite as many hallucinations in the future. So I'm not trying to scare you off it by any means. I just kind of trying to alert and elevate the potential here. This doesn't happen often, right? This was just a little bit quirky. So that's my last little recommendation on the opportunities and challenges. Now, what I'd like to do is open it up to questions. I haven't had a chance actually to look even at your comments here, but I will scan them very quickly. Thanks to you very much for the comments here. Oh, wow, this is a really long one. Let's see, there's one from Gojko. He says, thanks for your insight. As you know, to phrase it, we don't know what human intelligence is because we don't know how the brain works. Okay. Do you find the question, are we aware of what are we developing, then simulating something we don't know what is and what capable as plausible? Well, I mean, it's artificial. So if it simulates intelligence and it gets us a result that we can find value from, I think it's okay. Okay, knowing this, will we be able to preserve our privacy, private or professional? Well, I think there's a bigger question there. Do we still have privacy, right? Are we in a post-privacy world? I think that's a very important thing to think about. What are your concerns? Is your book Data Governance translated to Serbian? Okay. This gentleman asked her, I think I assume it's a gentleman, I don't actually know, wrote a lot of questions, and my book is not in Serbian. I'm so sorry to tell you that, but maybe if you reach out to me separately, we can look into how we might make that happen. Let's see if I can answer something else here. Can you please help us with some insights on how AI-powered chatbot systems can assist in streamlining administrative process and handling big data and frequently asked questions? Okay. For example, community wardens and in optimizing workflow. A lot in this question. So there are tools that you can acquire that will take your specific information and add them to the corpus of knowledge. So for example, if you have your Serbian government website or particular ministry website, and when people go on there, they have a chat or they ask questions about your specific world, your data will be part of the answer, because the provider, the vendor, will actually help you upload your content. So that's how you get your answers, your specific answers into the system. You can't do that with the free versions I showed you, because for the purposes of sharing here today, I just used the entry-level solutions. But there's a vendor ecosystem that will help you get your content into a good solution, so people get the answer, the customer service that's relevant to the thing they're asking about. Are there any specific examples of case studies showcasing successful implementations of AI chatbots or virtual assistants in law enforcement agencies? Well, there are. I mean, a quick search will get you some good examples. But I want to say, when you say showcasing successful implementations, the thing I do want you to keep in mind is we don't have a lot of history here. So, you might see an implementation that's 6 months old and some good results, but is 6 months enough to say it's a successful implementation? You have to decide. Okay. Here's another one. If we ask ChatGPT to write a motivation letter for job vacancy, is it going to make the same for all candidates? No, it won't. Every single prompt is unique. So just be careful that it doesn't sound like it was written by a robot, right? Can this be detected whether the AI wrote the kind of document? Yes. So if you write something and you send it to somebody else, they can check if it was written by a generative AI solution. That's why you want to go in and kind of modify it a little bit yourself. And when the checking software looks at it, it will only give a probability. They might say, there's a 60% chance this was created on OpenAI, right? So yes, you can be caught that way. Would you let a robot or surgeon operate on you? When the technology gets good enough, and I think we're a few years away, I would definitely prefer a robot. Definitely. Robots won't make mistakes. Surgeons make a lot of mistakes. So I think eventually we're in a transitionary period as we get sort of through the next few years and into the 2030s. I think we're going to trust robots and AI much more than we do humans for very, very complicated and risky things. Might sound weird right now, but I think that's where we're headed. Can third parties see my search history on Microsoft GPT Chat? If you use Microsoft Bing Chat, which I think you're getting to here, or Google Bard, the answer is technically all the content is stored by those companies, and they do sell content. There's obviously the devil's in the details, but anything you enter into any website, so let's be clear, whether it's Google or Bing or OpenAI or whatever it is that you use, the Google products, technically is stored and can be reused for their own algorithms, can be sort of anonymized and sold. So I would assume, if I was you, that when using anything connected to the internet, unless it's behind your firewall and it's proprietary, generally when you're using third-party tools, you don't have any more privacy. And that might come as a little bit of a shock, but that's the world in which we live. If enough people feed it false data, will it start to use false data as true? Well, I mean, you'd have to have a lot of people do that. But whilst all of us can kind of, upload things and we can correct answers, the vast majority of the data is being provided by the technology provider. So your ability, or even if 100 of us try to, put really bad data into it, it would be unlikely that we could alter, in the big picture, the actual outcomes. There are many AI tools out there, and the question is how to distinguish which is the best, especially since the output results may differ. And it's also data. I'm just kind of scanning this. I'm sorry, real quick here. Now, new problem arises whether to spend time, which I otherwise save us searching for best versions, simply on one tool, and then through the exchange of question answers, obtain deeper information. Okay, so sorry, if I can summarize the question is, there's a lot of tools, absolutely, and they all offer up different things, and You know, in the early days, is it just a matter of maybe focusing on one and seeing what kind of results you get? You know, I think you should do a full assessment. I mean, it's a hard question to answer. There are definitely better solutions than others, and I don't know your assessment process, but I just think be very diligent, ask the right questions, you know, experiment and do proof of concepts, you know, run pilots for things you're more serious about. And then you hopefully will get to a better answer. There's probably more to your question there, but I tried my best to do quickly. I'm just checking here. Okay, I'm going to go to the Q&A tool now. Wow. Thank you. Oh, thank you for the nice comments. Appreciate that. What are your thoughts on possibility to use AI for planning of national policies? I think that's a great idea. I think AI is going to be a participant in the development of all types of policies and legislation. So AI used in the legislative process, I think, is a top priority and a top use case. So absolutely. At the end of the day, you still have to vote on it. You still have to have the human input. So it's not AI like driving it. It's AI supporting. How do you check if the answers are correct? Do we use usual search engines in the old-fashioned way? You know, I don't have a great answer for you on this one. The only way I can think about it is if you have to be 100% certain with the answer, like it's something that's very serious and consequential, definitely test it. And if there's any doubt in your mind, definitely test it. Yeah. Generally, though, when you're doing things like crafting, like the structure of something, or getting a sort of a starting point for writing a report or something, or lists, you're going to enter your own data anyway. If you want like hardcore details about history or science, you know, you're probably going to continue to use Google for that and use like established websites. Are the answers just as accurate if the questions are written in languages other than English? Well, no. English will be the most accurate. Why? Because there's more English on the internet than any other language. So I know that's probably a very disappointing answer, but generative AI will produce results with the most amount of data in the language of that content right now. Okay, so you know the internet is English. It's just one of the factors of the internet, and you know, other languages make up a much smaller part of it. But because it's such an important question, we don't want, you know, a different answer in a different language. We will see advances in this area absolutely in the next you know, few months and years for sure. Can it be used to trade on Bitcoin? I realize that's a joke. Okay. You can have your conversation with ChatGPT and ask it for its recommendations and go with whatever you're comfortable with. In your opinion, are translators and interpreters going to lose their jobs very soon? Oh my goodness gracious. What a sensitive topic, given that we have two translators or at least one translator on today. Look, let me say this. Everybody has to think about the value they add, and we have to evolve our work. I do think that real-time, high-quality translation will be done by AI. It's already been done very well, but there's going to be times when it makes sense to have a human. So we have to figure out when that happens versus AI. But to be, you know, I always believe in honesty and transparency. I think there will be a strong push towards automating translations, right, and interpretation. How to prevent and control abuses of AI? Well, here's my answer to that in the short time we have, and I'm going to be brief because it's a big question. In the last 250 years of the Industrial Revolutions, anytime we've had something good, bad people have found bad ways to use it, and so you know, AI is very significant in its breadth and depth of consequence, and yes, people will find incredible ways to abuse it. So we will have to come up with new tools to prevent it. Yes. So you think about viruses, right? And malware and all the ugly stuff that happens in cybersecurity. It's a fight between the bad people and the good people. Sadly, I think AI will be more consequential, and this will be a very big topic. It also will be a great economic opportunity. So people like jobs and entrepreneurs who create, good defenses for AI abuses will make a lot of money. They'll create some unicorns from that. Can documents in Excel format be uploaded and interpreted by ChatGPT in the free version? No, it can't. You can't actually upload anything to the free version of ChatGPT, which is unfortunate. If I could have got the Google Bard to work, you can upload Excel to Google Bard. I don't know why it wasn't cooperating with me, or whether it's I don't know why it wasn't today. You never know when you do a demo, right? And now it says how much modifications is enough. I actually don't know what that question is, so maybe you could retype it down later. Is it possible to read the domestic laws and expect them to point out a certain irregularity in a specific case? Yes, that is a very good question, and it's a very good use. So I would suggest, if you're going to start to use it for very sophisticated uses, pay for the GPT-4 Turbo, because it's the best one, right? And yes, you can ask it to look for issues that contrast with other laws, and yeah, it starts to get really good. I mean, ChatGPT version 4 Turbo, you can upload 100, 200 page document and have it summarize it 1 page. You can have a look for corrections and for errors and compare it with other documents. So yeah, a lot of stuff like that. And you're going to see, and already seeing, a third party emerge to support that kind of work. Is it true that 1 question wastes a liter of water to cool the server? I don't know the exact power consumption, but it's high. Yeah. Even Google searches use power, right? So every time you type in a Google search, a little bit of energy is used up. Artificial intelligence prompts use up several times more energy than a search, a Google search. I'm not sure about the metrics here that you're using, so I don't. I mean, I can say with certainty it's not a liter per question, no, because that would be. I mean, there's millions of questions that are being asked every day, tens of millions. Upload domestic law. I don't know. That doesn't seem like a question to me. What is the difference between the free version of ChatGPT and the paid version? Okay, so multimodality. So you can upload files. You can use. It creates graphics and it does audio. So the free version is just text. The paid version is multimodality, right? It also can summarize much bigger documents, like hundreds of pages, or versus just copying and pasting text. It can summarize and interpret. It can rewrite very big amounts of data. And I mean, it's faster too in its output. And there is, I understand, a slightly higher degree. I say slightly. There is a higher degree of accuracy to it. How can we check the veracity of the information provided by AI because it doesn't provide any data sources? Well, Google Bard does. It gives you the sources. I think the Microsoft Bing version does. ChatGPT-4 might. I can't say that with certainty, but you can check that. This question in Serbian I can't answer. If there is any legal prevention of our personal data regarding malicious use of AI in US, for example. Not yet. I mean, the law is moving very slow on this, very slow all around. The law moves slow, as you know. Now, if there are privacy laws that exist, they apply to AI too, right? So GDPR that you have in Europe applies to AI, right? It's just another digital technology. Will you visit Serbia soon and personally hold another such a good presentation related to artificial? I would be delighted to. I would hop on a plane in a moment and come to Serbia and do this. So you'll have to encourage the organizers to make that happen. My search was identical to yours, but ended a much smaller amount of info. How come? yeah, so every output is unique. You know, the words will not be the same, sometimes longer and shorter. It is kind of each time the content is run through the actual software, it generates a unique output. We're coming to the end of our time here. Are there any open issues about copyright for scientific sources used by AI? Are there any open issues about copyrights for scientific sources? Well, it's a copyright is copyright, so no matter what the source is, be conscious of that. What about capabilities to convert PDF document to Word document, to extract text from PDF document? Well, ChatGPT-4 doesn't really have an issue with that. So I think you can upload PDFs comfortably, also with Bard as well. How much modification is enough to hide that it written by ChatGPT? Okay. That's a good question. I don't have a good answer for that. I struggle with this with my students, you know, because my students write content now. They write some of their assignments in ChatGPT, and they'll do some modifications, and then they'll say it was my work, and then, you know, or they'll write the work and have ChatGPT make it sound like they're smarter. So there's some real philosophical things going on here too. Is there any possibility to talk to AI to ask questions without typing? Yes, in fact, you can download onto your phone ChatGPT as an app, and you can just talk to it. It doesn't require any typing. So yeah, I think eventually, actually, they all will. They already support audio, so you can do that. Thanks for a great presentation. Wow, I think I got through all the questions here at the hour mark. Okay, you can see there's some really good dialogue there. You know, from your team, from the hosting team as well. Okay, I think that is. Can I sue AI? Well, who are you suing? I mean, AI is effectively a tech company. You know, unfortunately, I didn't get the website to work straight away, which was a pity. But trust me, just trust me on it. I've done it a lot of times with different audiences, and with a little bit more time, I would have actually got the website up on the screen for you. It didn't happen today. But with that, I think I'm going to pass you back to the hosts. I want to thank you very much for your attention today. We covered a lot. This will be available on video, and perhaps I'll come back soon and talk to you all again. So thank you so much.
Hvala puno profesore Reichental na vašem predavanju, vrlo korisnom za sve nas koji radimo u upravi. Hvala puno vama službenicima koji ste pohađali ovaj naš webinar i možete da očekujete ovakve ili slične sadržaje, slične prirode od strane Nacionalne akademije. Verujemo da ćemo u saradnji, da ćemo nastaviti ovu inicijativu Kabineta predsjednice Vlade u smislu usavršavanja službenika u ovoj oblasti i uz podršku UNDP projekta. Možda i nastaviti saradnju sa profesorom dalje na drugim temama u vezi sa primjenom veštačke inteligencije. Verujemo da ćemo nekom od narednih webinara moći da odgovorimo na jedno od pitanja meni jako interesantnih u chatu koji je postavljeno, a to je koji su to najbolji primjeri korišćenja veštačke inteligencije u radu javne uprave. To je nešto što bi nam bilo jako od značaja. Tako da verujem da ćemo imati prilike u nekom narednom periodu. Hvala puno prevodiocima na angažovanju, tumaču, naravno organizaciji od strane UNDP-a i možete naravno vrlo uskoro i vidjeti snimak ovog predavanja na našem YouTube kanalu. Svako dobro, dobro zdravlje i vidimo se nekim narednim putom. Hvala puno još jednom.